All right. Good evening, everybody.
Yes.
Wow.
Good evening.
Thank you. Thank you. I know you traveled long and far to be here, some of you, but wanting to officially welcome you to the southeast side of San Francisco. This is the Dogpatch Hub. Is Sarah around?
I'm here.
Yes. We're going to first just open it up to our hosts to just give us kind of an overview of where we are and what this space is meant to be and how important it is for the community.
Appreciate that. Hi, welcome. I'm Sarah Charlie. I'm the Hub Director, and you are at your hub. This is the Dogpatch Hub. We are a blank canvas for you to use as you need and as you can dream of. Our job is to make that happen, just like tonight's event. They came to us, had an idea, and we plugged it in, and here we are. You can see we've got flyers around that have a selection of a lot of the programming that we do. So you can come by to some of those meetups. There are all sorts of different fun topics, ages, audiences, and then throughout the day, feel free to drop by if you need a change of scenery. 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. We're here for drop-ins. It's totally free. We're a true third space, and we welcome you.
Amazing.
Thank you for being here.
So I feel like I recognize almost everyone in here, but for those who don't know me, my name is Theo Ellington. I'm a San Francisco native, wearing a couple different hats. For the purposes of tonight, I am the policy director for a firm called Brownstein. We are a government relations consulting firm. We do work here in San Francisco, in Sacramento, and the #1 lobbying firm in DC. So super excited to welcome my esteemed panelists, who I'll let introduce themselves in a minute. But this is really meant to be a dialogue. The bill says district dialogue. We'll be hosting several of these events throughout. Hello. Several of these events. That's you. Yes. Several of these events throughout the district, really to have an open discussion. A lot of times these conversations happen on social media. A lot of times these conversations happen in silos. And I think there's really something special about bumping up against each other and having a real life dialogue. Today, we're going to be talking about the future of the Democratic Party. This is meant to be a back and forth. I'm going to ask the panelists some questions to sort of open it up. But if you are sitting in the audience, you may be called on as an active participant based off of your professional or personal experience with some of the topics that we'll be discussing today. I'd be remiss if I did not mention our sponsors who help support this event and help get folks here. First off, the San Francisco Democratic Party. Thank you all so much for your willingness to come alongside me with this journey. I know Cedric can probably speak to this a little later, but the party has been hosting these conversations as well across the city through Democrats on the Move, really, again, to bring the Democratic Party to folks who are out in community and out in neighborhoods throughout San Francisco. Also want to shout out the Eastern Neighborhoods Democratic Club, Bruce, who is here. Thank you for all the work that you do. Was it 10-year anniversary?
Yeah, or 7 years.
7 year, okay.
Yeah, 7 years.
10 years. Yes, speaking it into existence. And then also the Trail Hill Democratic Club, which J.R. Epler represents. Oh, there we go.
John O'Neill, president of the Democratic Club.
Yes, of course. So obviously we'll give you space to talk about that a little later on, but let's open it up. Josh, we'll start with you. Want to just give a brief intro of who you are, and as the sort of opening kind of icebreaker question is just what's on your mind? What do you think about right now?
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Hi, everyone. My name is Josh Kane. I'm the senior political reporter for the San Francisco Standard here in town. If you haven't heard of us, we're a pretty young outlet. We've been around for just over a few years. We try and cover everything San Francisco, from politics and courts and crime to arts and culture coverage. My beat is specifically around city, state, national politics, always with a lens on how either San Francisco is impacting the conversation up to a national level, to also just like how national, state issues are affecting the city here. And so usually my stories, I don't really write a lot of happy stories, unfortunately. It's not really my specialty. Usually it's more investigative, looking at how city agencies could be performing better, looking at misuse of taxpayer money and campaign funds. But I also write profiles. I'm actually working on a story right now about a San Francisco attorney named Harmeet Dillon. She is now the head of the Civil Rights Division of the U.S. Department of Justice. And she is very much transforming our definition of what civil rights is going to be in the future. And so I'm trying to kind of explore the topic of like what that means for all of us. No matter your background or status, it's going to have an impact on the way that we move in society going forward. So hopefully this is a discussion where we can talk about like democracy and like not only like where the Democratic Party is going, but where just we're going as a society politically, because obviously we're in pretty fraught times, as we've seen just in the last couple weeks. But yeah, the Standard is always open to tips. If you feel like there's something that we're not writing about, whether it's good or bad, we're always trying to respond to our readers and make sure that we're telling the fullest story possible of San Francisco.
Chair.
Hi there, everyone. I'm J.R. Epler. I'm here for a little bit of the local flair, I think. I'm president of the Potrero Boosters Neighborhood Association. I'm also a longtime board member of the Poteroville Democratic Club. I also serve on the board of the Potrero Dogpatch Merchants Association. So, we're kind of like the on-the-ground folks organizing at the neighborhood level. I have to think one of the things that's been keeping me up at a lot at night has been budget. And the reason why budget bothers me a lot is because, in this part of the city, we've been doing a lot of growth. We've been doing a lot of change. We've been adding population. We do a whole lot of work for the rest of the city. But we're historically underserved, and that means we need more resources. So how do we get the resources that we need in order to provide complete neighborhoods in a time period when the budget of the city is shrinking? And there's the threat of the federal money that goes to the city, causing our budget to crater. These are things that, you think about, you advocate around, but, it's not within your control. So, how are we going to deal with that if things really start to get nasty? I know that's a downer part. We'll elevate. You got to start low.
Marty, before you begin, this concept was fostered by a conversation that we had over lunch. It was me, you, Deborah Walker, Mayor Willie Brown. So I want to credit you for that insightful conversation that we had that sort of inspired me to say we should have this conversation amongst more than 4 politicos sitting at a table. So thank you for that. But floor is yours.
Hi, I'm Marty McKee, also a native San Franciscan. There aren't too many of us around. I'm an artist. I have a studio both at Hunters Point and at Pier 70. Been at Pier 70 for about 25 years now, I guess. And yes, the lunch was a lot of venting, which when Theo asked me to be on the panel, I said, Theo, I'm like so upset with everything that I do really want to be on this panel. But the way I try to keep my sanity is working to get what I think is important, the message I feel is important out by using my art. I'm a retired federal employee. I was able to retire young, and I've been a full-time artist for now close to 20 years. And the work I usually do is kind of abstract and figurative, and it's etching and monotype and what have you. But after Trump was elected the first time, and I just like the rest of the people I hear, just flipped out and needed to do something. I decided the only skills that I have is those things I wanted to do as an artist. So I have some friends also who felt the same way. And we decided to start silk screening posters that we print and take out and give to people in the streets. We put them on sticks, we take them to marches and demonstrations. And it helps. I mean, it is a way of coping with, frustration. And Deborah, I also work with Deborah. We were at the march this weekend. I don't know how many posters we gave out, and how many posters we stapled, but it's doing something rather than just complaining all day long, which I could easily do. And, Theo, I was glad you invited me also, and that you have an artist on the panel, because I know, as you well know, Dogpatch has become a destination for the arts. We've got a lot of new galleries. We've got the museum. We've got probably 10 different large-scale studio spaces, including the largest artist community in the United States at Hunters Point. And Noonan is small next to that, but there's about 40 of us out there, and most of us have been there for many, many years and are full-time working artists. And, one of the things that when we get to it that I would like to see on a local level is incorporation from the party about thinking about the role that artists play, not just the major institutions, which we all know bring in probably more than $1 billion a year to the city economy, but also people like me who are a small business. I mean, I'm a quintessential small business. It's me, and sometimes I have other people helping me, but anyway, I pay taxes, I do things, and I think it's important to understand how significant the arts have become in Dogpatch and Bayview and Hunters Point. So thank you for having me here. I really appreciate it. And the posters you see.
Yes, keep posters here. Cedric.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. You asked a question about what I was thinking. I was sitting there thinking about what I see every day on the streets of San Francisco, and people telling me what I'm seeing is not what I'm really seeing. That I don't see bodies laying on the ground. That I don't see people defecating on the street. I don't see people ODing and dying. And they keep telling me that it's getting better, and it's getting better. And I see streets sometimes cleaner than what they were. But what I'm continuing to see is people still going to stores taking. I see no stores in poor communities, no grocery stores. This is what I'm continuing to see. But what I'm told is that it's getting better, and we're going to bring help. Don't believe in titles. I just say that I'm a servant. I'm a person that truly likes to assist people and say to people that they can be better. And it's only from my own experience also that I have an intimate experience with the criminal justice system and drugs and alcohol. And today we were able, through our programs, to house 450 people a night. All of them are sober, 60% of them working. And those that are not working, they're going to school and being responsible to their community. And that's it.
Nice.
So, all right. Thank you.
Awesome. Cedric, I'm gonna start with you because you brought up a really, really good point about sometimes I joke, like, you don't want me to believe my own eyes and what I see. You and I talked a couple months ago about recovery, and you've dedicated your life to advocating to get people back on the right path. Was Susan here? Susan was at the Democratic Convention as well, and one of the things that I found was super interesting was that the Democratic Party wrote a resolution to support
San Francisco Democratic Party.
San Francisco Democratic Party, but they took it to the state.
Yeah, they did. State too.
And the state Democratic Party took it on as well. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because, when I was working with the Salvation Army maybe 6 years ago at this point, we took this idea to supervisors, state elected officials, the governor even, and they laughed in our faces. I mean, you remember this work. Like, they said recovery isn't a thing. They said transitional housing isn't a thing. People don't want to live in sober housing. Talk to me through the lens of the Democratic Party, why bringing in folks who are on the fringe, for the lack of a better word, why that is so important? Why do you think it's important to bring folks who have that experience into the Democratic Party?
Well, let me say that I got to get this out of the way first, and I think some people have to do it. I really truly believe that the Democratic Party has really let us down. I'm a say it, and I'm part of the. I got you guys. Some of you guys maybe voted for me to be on the DCCC. I had no idea what the DCCC was before somebody asked me to run, and I'm getting educated more and more each day. And I understand that what we're supposed to do is get people registered to vote and get people to come out and vote. That's what our primary purpose is. Now, I don't know what we've turned into now. And she has to sign up there now. All who are not registered to vote, please vote. That's one of the key things. That's one of our purposes. So when I look at the Democratic Party, and especially locally here in San Francisco, we done got caught up on ideology. We done got caught up on everything that has nothing to do with the everyday person. The Democratic Party used to be the party of the people. We forgot about people that are still starving and want food on their table, about gas prices, about all of those things that are important to day-to-day living. But what we are concerned ourselves about, things that really doesn't, I always ask people, does it affect you really at home? Do your lights go out? Are you really lacking at going to the market? And for the most San Franciscos, that's not the case, but it's a lot of San Franciscos that are suffering. And then when we want outside people that are not a part of this country or not a part of the system, we don't really reach out to them. We only reach out to them during election time. So getting that out of the way, because we can talk about that for a while. And I really, truly believe that us as a Democratic Party, we need to be in some recovery and take a look at where we have failing people. And, and so that starts there. But with the substance use, even with that, Theo, I mean, we have some people now that are in sobriety. We've been fighting for a while. This brother here, Steve Adami, and myself, we have formed a recovery coalition. And what we wanted to see was simple as this. In San Francisco, and I'm not necessarily knocking harm reduction, but that's all San Francisco was doing. And when something is not working after 10 years and you still have high deaths, it's time to have a balance or at least a change. That was our point of view from this. And for me, everybody's saying, we just saying common sense. For me, going off, and I'm kind of like not answering your question.
No, you're
but
all
the simple things, and maybe this is inspired, because I like to hear you guys speak too. But for me, it's simple things like this. People say that, Cedric, you're being harsh. You were a felon and you went through this, but the reality is, the last time I checked, using drugs on the street was illegal. Selling drugs on the street was illegal. Stealing was illegal. All these things that I see going on right now, nobody gets arrested. And is going to jail the solution? I'm not going to say it's the solution, but that's all we have. And it's no different from just like a lot of people, everybody was in agreement, defund the police. But what happened, we didn't come up with a plan for what we were going to do when we defunded the police. Go ahead.
Please, please.
Hi,
This is the
Lansberg.
dialogue.
Hi, Alex Lansberg, Bayview resident. A couple things. One, common sense is often just folk wisdom that's belied by actual research. When we see how things work in the aggregate, we look at the world through our own lens, and as many people put it, we see an elephant through a straw. So when we see an elephant through the straw, we always see the same solutions. And I think what we've seen, and you're right, things have gotten worse on the street. And the reason things have gotten worse on the street is because we've actually gone away from public health solutions. So number one. Number two, jail. I mean, there was talk of defunding the police. We know that the numbers really haven't gone down. I mean, take a look at what the budget was in 2018. Let's take a look at what the budget is in 2025. The police are asking for $80 million. Every dollar that goes to the cops to chase someone down is a dollar that doesn't go to recovery. It's a dollar that doesn't go to housing. It's a dollar that doesn't go to any of the social services that we're talking about here. So I think this sort of reflexive, maybe is the best way of putting it, because I think like so many of us reach for that as a reflex, as an instinct for common sense solutions are actually what is how we got a drug war, a failed drug war, and how we're getting, back on the treadmill of the drug war.
Let me just, I want to connect this back to the sort of Democratic Party. Susan, I know you were also in, so you're going to get called. If you're here, you might get called. You were also there and you've dedicated your life to this. I remember when I was a delegate, we walked side by side in Sacramento. Are the Democrats picking this up? Like, are we listening? Are we hearing what Alex and what Cedric are saying?
We are trying to make the Democrats listen. You happened to catch me on a night that I was on a call with the Democratic National Committee this afternoon, and I was not happy with the call and the way things are going. I'm being very honest. I donate monthly to the DNC because that's the party and that's who's going to make us whole. But they're in a disarray right now, and the new chair is not really sure what to do. I'm not sure I could tell them because I don't know either. But they need to be talking to the voters. And they need to be giving us a reason to be a member of the party. And they're having to rebuild the party from scratch. What many people don't realize is when the president in the White House, in the Oval Office, is of your party, then he or she is the titular chair of the party. They are the DNC. You can elect a DNC chair like we did Jamie Harrison, but he was taking orders from Joe Biden. That's the way it works.
Sure.
And when the president kind of stops doing the work, then it begins to fall away. And I think that's what happened. I love what Joe Biden did for us. He did some amazing things, but he quit midway through.
Sure.
And so now we're having to rebuild, and we need
a. Yeah, there's.
I'm known for being honest.
No, we definitely appreciate it. I think there's one thing that you just mentioned that stood out to me is that right now we have a lot to. Trump makes it easy to give us something to fight against, right? We look at the ICE raids, we look at the gutting the federal departments, we look at reversing environmental protections. We look at things like the No Kings rally. Like, Marty, talk about just what you saw there. You said earlier you gave hundreds of thousands of posters away. Tell me what you saw. Tell me about the experience.
I wish we gave, but we can only print so much because they're hand printed. But the experience was, I have to say, in such a dark time, it was uplifting. The diversity was amazing, and there were young people, old, a lot of the marches and rallies are, quite frankly, attended by a lot of old white people. This was not that. This was a very diverse crowd, a lot of Hispanic people, everybody. And I think that makes a difference. And 100,000, San Francisco can be really weird about getting people to come out and do stuff. It's very frustrating. I'm sure there are at least 100,000 people out there. I saw no incidents of anybody doing anything they shouldn't be doing. There was a lot of cohesiveness. And I just, again, I do the artwork because of, I think a little sanity I have to hang on to. That's what it keeps me going. But people care about issues. And, I'm covering a lot of issues with my posters, but my gripe is I care about all these issues very much. Some of them are personal, some of them is because friends and people I care about. But for me, where the Democratic Party nationally is missing the boat is exactly what Cedric said. We need to be talking to people about jobs, minimum wage, grocery prices, about the amounts of, I've suddenly become a Bernie fan. I can't even believe it. He's the one guy who's out there every day talking about what's happening with the economy and how everyone is getting squeezed, particularly the most marginalized. So, doing the posters helps me, just stay through it. And I was telling somebody earlier, my next poster is going to be, I really want a president that doesn't have dementia. I want to see young people in the party. I understand that
Without arthritis.
You know.
Pardon
It
me?
doesn't have arthritis.
I do, but he doesn't. Anyway, to me, being able to take messages about things people care about out and that message has an artistic component, I think it helps people understand the importance of art in our communities.
Nice. Please.
You know, one thing that Marty said got my attention there is that you talk about the need for new blood in the party for the Democratic Party, and the local San Francisco Democratic Party had a resolution about suggesting there should be an age limit on elected officials. The California Democratic Party did a maneuver under its chair, Rusty Hicks, to make sure that this was postponed. And so it was actually not discussed and, of course, then not adopted. From what I heard from Eric Kingsbury, a local member of the Democratic Party who authored that with Chair Nancy Tung, that was like an unheard of maneuver. There was no like actual process that had ever been done like that to get that off the table. And it was clearly authored with Joe Biden in mind because he had lost significant cognitive ability, as we all saw during that debate with Trump last year. And the reason it got scrapped, and it also was in reference to Dianne Feinstein, the late senator, who also was suffering serious health issues and refused to leave office. The reason it was actually postponed is because, from what I understand, they really didn't want to piss off Nancy Pelosi. And I think Democrats have to come to terms with the fact that Nancy Pelosi is a legend in the party and should be respected, but also she is not got the fastball that she once had, and she is not the speaker. And so like, this is something that when we talk about like, why is it Democrats are struggling so much? It's because they are dedicated to maintaining the status quo. And that is actually what politics is at its highest levels.
Let me follow up on that, because I think the media plays a role in how we all sort of view and think about this. So as you're writing your stories and you are seeking out tips, how do you think the Standard in particular can be better allies in promoting sort of more inclusiveness between Democrats in general?
Well, I mean, first off, you know, we're not supposed to be allies of either party. We are supposed to just call balls and strikes. So it's like if Trump's doing something that's racist or stupid, then we'll say that. And it's the same for Democrats. Democrats have their own issues with being stupid, maybe a little bit less racist. But like, I think, you know, when it comes to like building allies between the media and the public, it's about trust. It's about being fair and accurate, mostly making sure that you are giving people a reasonable chance to tell their stories. Make sure that you're reaching out to communities that have been marginalized and don't get heard from enough. I can admit that the Standard needs to do a much better job of that. There are communities within San Francisco that don't like us, don't like the media in general. You know, this is something that's a constant process, a constant dialogue, getting feedback, going out, not just telling stories when something bad happens in the Bayview, but also talking about the good things that are happening in the community. And, you know, for me, I've been called everything in the book for my stories. I've been called racist. I've been called sexist. I've been called stupid. And definitely have, you know, not every story is going to come out perfect, but I think like my track record, I try and go after everyone. If you're doing something that's not cool, not smart, not in the best interest of the public, then that's when I'm going to be on your ass to write a story. And so it doesn't matter if it's Shaman Walton going to a party in Colombia and missing his own reparations hearing, or it doesn't matter if it's, or if it's Daniel Lurie, or if it's Daniel Lurie being just deathly afraid of saying the name Trump. And not being able to speak up for immigrant communities in a way that is clear and actually empathetic beyond some canned statement that his outside consultants write for him. Or if it's Mark Farrell being just corrupt and hungry for drinks and food at every stop he goes to with a slush fund of campaign cash. So like, I guess what I'm trying to get at is like, how do we build allies? We we tell people this is the story that actually they're saying publicly, and this is what's really happening behind the scenes. Now, that doesn't always engender like more trust and faith in government, but it gives people at least the knowledge to act upon, whether they want to get involved in running for a local Democratic Party, or if they want to, lobby for some piece of legislation that they think could fix a problem. I think the big thing that we're seeing in San Francisco right now is that people have expressed that they're fed up, and we have seen the pendulum kind of swing back from the harm reduction policies to more abstinence-based treatment. We've seen people calling for greater increase in public safety. What we're seeing though right now, and I think a lot of people are giving Daniel Lurie credit, some of which is due and some of which is actually policies that were enacted by his predecessor, Mayor London Breed. I think, if London Breed was still mayor, I don't think we would actually be seeing a whole lot different on the ground right now. But it's incumbent on the press to just tell stories and make sure that we are giving people the chance to be heard. And so I'm kind of rambling.
No, all good. I think just real quick, and then JR, I want to go to you. I think you mentioned something sort of near and dear to my heart, particularly around the Standard's news coverage on everything happening on the southeast side of San Francisco, in Bayview, Dreamkeeper Initiative dollars. I can't help but to think all of the things happening now with the Parks Alliance and millions of dollars that have literally gone missing, and hoping that there is just equal coverage. And I always say when we talk about Dreamkeeper, there was always two sides of the truth, and we really only heard sort of one perspective. And anyway, I think I just wanted to mention that, and we can talk more about that.
It's a fair criticism. I mean, the Parks Alliance, for those who aren't familiar, basically misused millions of dollars in money that should have been directed to helping other nonprofits get their, community outreach and services done. And it was affiliated with the Parks and Rec Department. That's an ongoing crisis that's definitely playing out. Dreamkeeper Initiative, for those not familiar, is a historic investment in Black community in San Francisco, funding an array of issues, or organizations, I should say. And the problem is, sometimes the most salacious stories tend to rise to the top and get the most attention. I would say that San Francisco is pretty talented in throwing money at problems and nothing changing. And unfortunately, this is probably something the media could do better as, just making sure that we're focusing on like the issues more than the actors, I guess, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, no, definitely appreciate that. JR, in your introduction, you mentioned several Potrero Hill neighborhood groups that you belong to. How do you see neighborhood-based organizations strengthening the political discourse and fostering a great sort of greater community action around Democratic Party, around all the things we're seeing Donald Trump do? What are the sort of, if you want to think hyper-local, what are some things happening?
Well, I mean, at their core, community groups are conveners, right? They bring people together and they share information out to those folks. And so, and then they act as opportunities for organization around shared ideas. And so, I mean, I think back to COVID, when the Potrero Dogpatch Merchants Association, merchants got together virtually, started talking about when they were open, realized they didn't know when they were all open, and then started to go through the process of collecting a very user-friendly database of local store hours, whether you ordered online, how to order, whether they did curbside delivery, so that there was a resource for people knew where they could go to shop when we weren't supposed to be doing very much of anything.
Sure.
That's the sort of thing that you can do at that local level. It's interesting. I think that, we are kind of lobbyists of our own sort, right? That we're lobbying for the resources that we need, whether it's with other institutions like the Democratic Party or with the city. And, I think that, we have the opportunity to be positive stories. It strikes me in our conversation about the flaws of the Democratic Party that we've been having, that we're uniquely bad at a couple of things recently. One, we're not good storytellers. That's one of the reasons why the media doesn't have a lot of good stories come from the Democratic Party, is we're not telling them well ourselves. we're great at ideas, but ideas don't pay the checks, right? The ideas don't, put food on the table. Ideas are, ways to get to an end. And that's the other thing we're bad at, is we're bad at execution. I think the things that you brought up, like Greenkeeper, tremendous idea, very important investment, but the execution seemed to be lacking. And because the execution was lacking, the negative story got out, the positive side of it was lost, and we are where we are. I think when you look at the losses that we've had as a Democratic Party at the national level, the one that's the most galling and most representative of this, I think, is Al Gore. Remember Al Gore? When he was the vice president under one of the most successful administrations, the economy was booming, people were feeling happy, and he couldn't tell that story. He had to actually felt like he should go against that story because of the issues with Bill Clinton's interpersonal issues, right? And if you can't tell a story about why things will be good, and people can't trust you to execute on your ideas, then you're going to lose that marginal part of the vote that causes you to lose an election.
Sticking on the sort of hyper-local neighborhood involvement and issues and kind of rolling up your sleeve, Dogpatch, I'm gonna call you two in here, Bruce, Vanessa. Vanessa,
Yes.
just tell us a little bit about Dogpatch, and I guess there's a couple folks who are not from Dogpatch in the room, but like when I think of just like quintessential neighborhood organizations who and folks who are from this neighborhood who rolled up their sleeves and really transformed this area and really was able to sort of lead that charge and not let development and growth happen to you, but be facilitators from the resident perspective. Talk to me just a little bit about how that came to fruition.
I think Bruce, you should start and I'll figure
Okay.
out. Yeah.
I think the best way to express it as a neighborhood, we saw development come into our neighborhood. It was a tidal wave. We now have 400% more housing units in our neighborhood than we did probably 10 years ago. And as a result, there was green space. JR has spoken to this in the past. Road work, things that just weren't done in our neighborhood and should have been done. So when you walk into our neighborhood, you're expecting kind of an industrial area. It's dramatically changing into a residential area. And so with that, we went toe-to-toe with UCSF. We got a $10 million commitment from UCSF because they're a state agency. They don't contribute taxes. So to our neighborhood, we needed to pull in some money in order for us to do green space road. We created the Green Benefit District, which is now the first 10 years, we're going on for renewal to another 15 years. It takes care of all of our public green space, with the exception of Esprit Park. So we as neighbors kind of step forward to say, if someone else isn't going to do it, then we're going to have to do it. So how do we do it? And JR, you were part of that as well with UCSF, as well as the GBD. And so as we evolved, we said we need to do this ourselves. So one of the points that I think you brought up is we need to step forward. We need to be more vocal. Our population in the neighborhood has changed dramatically. We are now mid-30s, and I am not that age. So the general trend in this area is people really like living here. It's very walkable. It's very bikeable. We have direct access to the freeway. We have direct access to an electric train, Caltrain. We have a T train that goes up and down. And so, and we also have 3 SFMTA transit maintenance stops here. So I live right across the street from one of them. So in the spirit of partnership, we said we have to be partners. We have to be better partners with folks. So how do we do that? And I think one of the emphasis in the Democratic Party is how do we be better partners with communities?
Yes. Yes.
And to add to what Bruce perfectly said, is the importance of a community is to really hear each other out, be straightforward, I think not beating around the bush, and also really believing in what we as a community want to have this community look like the integrity of this community, the historic value of the community. For us, that was very important, the look, the feel. And to be honest with you, I love to brag when people come to the neighborhood. I've heard people talk in the community. This feels like and they've mentioned that to me, that this feels like a community. And that's because we are connected. We're so close. I think I'm very friendly with everybody, and I want to emulate that, or send that energy out to the rest of the community, to let them know they're invited. And, don't be shy. You really got to say hello. Really not maybe force yourself. And it's okay if they don't wave at you, but just to show how we are a tight-knit community here. And Bruce couldn't have said it any better, but yeah.
If I can just follow on to one thing Bruce said, because he raised up, the negotiations with UCSF. One of the needs that the Dogpatch community identified was the need for community space, and Bruce worked, with me helping a little bit, but Bruce worked for 8 years, was it, that it took to get this facility up and going. And so this is part of that community work, and Calista is on the board of this organization as well. And, this is Dogpatch's living room in a place where they've been helping before. And so that sort of work from the community really brought the opportunity for us to be here right now today.
Yeah. Yes, please.
First, I want to say a couple things. First of all, the Green Benefit District has been awesome. Jill and I live down in the Dia Basin, down in Baby Hunters Point, and as you guys are looking forward to renewal, hopefully you can expand to include our neighborhood as well. And part of the reason I say that is that we are sort of, I guess, 10 years behind you guys in terms of like the scale of development that's going to be happening. We've seen all this stuff happen. We've seen all this stuff happen at Hunters Point Shipyard, but frankly, the shipyard seems like it's like another country for all practical purposes. People drive in and out. They don't really participate down on Innis Avenue. But it would be great to be able to just like harness some of the energy and some of the, like stream, like drift on your coattails, basically. Down in Indian Basin.
Is it grading or is it businesses?
Speak up.
I said, is it grading or is it businesses?
It's a well, I mean, like Innis Avenue is dead.
Yeah,
Practical
people
purposes.
need something to do over
So
there.
that's what I mean. It's like we're 10 years behind.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
they
There's
need
like-
Basin Flats.
A cafe and a stop.
Oh, no, we have a liquor store and a cannabis.
It's not a liquor store, but Third
I mean-
Street, there's so many empty spots down on Third
Absolutely.
Street.
No, I know.
And Bayview, it's so much pride.
Yeah, but the park is bringing people, and it would be great to get like something. The reality is that in our neighborhood, it's hard to get people to focus on something like this when there are far more pressing, sort of closer issues to people's face.
Let me go to the back real quick, and then I'll come up front.
Sorry, you cracked me up. I thought I gotta talk to you after. But I am filled with a lot of emotions right now. I just have a few things to say. Politics kind of makes me very emotional, and this day has been a lot. So if I start crying, turn away. But I'm just kind of feeling, what's the word? When you were right, like I feel like I was right to say like there is a disconnect, because all the stories you guys are talking about right now, I'm like, no one seems to. Yeah, I feel validated that no one in these city organizations or in the government is talking to each other. That's kind of what I'm hearing, and I've been feeling like that for like the past maybe like I don't know how many years. I want to say even before 2019. This might be a thing to major London Breed supporters. I was a supporter of hers, but when she first did the like open drug policy, I'm like, who are you talking to? Like who gave you this? Like who are in the community where you talking to? And then the SF reparations thing, like I didn't know about the Shema missing the last vote because I actually was a candidate for the reparations committee, but it was so hard to get information about it. And I'm like, why are you guys not, who are you talking to? You know what I mean? Why can't anyone in the community figure this stuff out? Even with the last election and the last midterm, the last mayor election, I was sitting there and I feel bad because like I didn't get out there and maybe do the little sign that you have, like register people to vote, because I'm just like, I'm not seeing anybody come, and I actually live in the shipyard, and I'm actually from Patrol Hill and from Hunters Point, so I'm just like, I'm not seeing anybody
in these neighborhoods. Like I'm not seeing anybody wanting to come here. I'm not seeing anybody anything on the news. I'm not like I'm validated as there is a disconnect. And I just want to figure out like, are these organizations not supposed to talk to each other? Are they? I know there's like community. I saw that Shimon was having like community police meetings and stuff like that. And that's fine, but I felt like that was like a fear thing. Like I don't just want a police meeting. Like I already know the stuff in the neighborhood. Y'all not fixing it. You know what I mean? Like I want something like this. So that's why I came here today. So I'm kind of glad because So just long story short, somebody can help me figure out like how is it supposed to work? Who's supposed to connect who? Yeah, where to start? I know there's those supervisor meetings, they're super long, you might be trying to listen in. You know what I mean? But I'm kind of frustrated as well, and it is kind of what you said about there's nothing on Ennis, there's nothing on 3rd Street, because they obviously don't want to put anything there. And I honestly have been discriminated over there, so I honestly don't feel like going to a store down there, you know what I mean? So it's just like, where is the politicians that are supposed to actually be? I don't know, where's Sean?
I think just to, because I want to open it up, and if you all have specific questions for the panelists, feel free. If you all have a thought you want to share, feel free. But I think that's one of the things that a lot of folks are feeling down on that side of south of Dogpatch. Like if you've been there for 5 years or you've been there for 50 years, that feeling of isolation, that feeling of disconnect, that feeling of not feeling love, like the community, like our local officials don't love this side of town. Like that is one thing that I think brings us together in a different way than say 5 years ago or 10 years ago. So definitely appreciate those comments, and thank you for sharing that. I'm gonna go to Marlene, and then I want to open it up for folks who have questions or thoughts.
I'm Marlene Tran. Back in the late 1980s, I ran for the Democratic Congress, and then some of my former students that I taught citizenship for over 40 years came to me and said, "Teacher Tran, the name is not on the ballot." I said, "Huh? How did that happen?" Guess why? Because many of the Asians are registered as non-political party. So we have to really be cognizant of that. And of course, I lost a lot of votes. They came to me after work and said, "We came just to vote for you," and it didn't happen. But anyway, I got elected. So that's one of the first things I did, with the DCCC with the Venerable Jane Morrison, was to say that we need to encompass language access. Again, and later on, I became an Indian Rights Commissioner. I did the same thing. So what I'm trying to tell you is that what you just mentioned, the San Francisco Standard has hired Han Lee, right? So he is really into, this is exactly what we need. We need to get everybody's vote, and if we do everything in one language only, we are only targeting, like everything is on email, so you're targeting just that population. We're losing out. The Asians use WeChat. So in fact, a lot of these Proposition K is a typical one of them. A lot of people are lost because they don't understand that you have to, understand the other way of voting. And you have to understand how they transmit information. So you do everything in a traditional manner and they come up with something new. Of course, they're like AI is coming up and we don't know anything. We're not gonna, have the information. So as part of the democratic process, we need to be really open up and hear people's ideas, incorporate language, try different modes of, outreaching, and not just to do the traditional way. We are losing a lot. The demographics in District 10 has changed a lot. The API population, I'm talking about the non-English speakers, has increased, but seems to be nobody seems to pay any attention to it. And so that's why I hate to say it, but I live in Visitation Valley. Many of them voted for Trump because they were swayed the wrong way, and in Chinatown as well. So people got all the wrong messages, and you're preaching to this group, you forget that group, you're losing out. So we have to be, cognizant of that and, incorporate everybody. Think of the language access, you think of different modalities, and don't, as Akbar said, don't do it just when you're running for something. That is what I hate. In fact, a few of the politicians approached me, and the first thing I told them, I said, don't just come to me because you want to run for something. You got to do something for us after you got elected. That is not the way to do it, okay?
Thank you, Marlene. Anybody who has not said anything yet?
Try to,
You wait. Yes, please.
a lot of the things that I feel people are talking about are people. Lots of different kinds of people. But the thing that is really on my mind, and I'm wondering about any of you panelists, what they are being able to talk to or speak to, kind of goes back to not just us storytelling, but we're talking about having candidates that are high quality, maybe young, with a pulse. But what are we doing to grow people as a party? And I think that we're really lacking at that. And I think there's lots of little things I've heard about, like, oh, this is like, we're gonna get women to do this, and we're gonna get, like, little things, I don't know where any of that has gone or went, but it feels like there is just an oppressive party that's keeping the powers that be and the powers that be. And I think all of this could be solved by just focusing on people. Younger ones. Sorry to say it, but like younger people. How do we grow them?
Sure. No, I think Cedric made a really good point earlier as we walked in. Is we got to vent, we got to heal, we got to put all of the things on the table. I think a lot of what we saw with Biden was like folks were hurt. There was a lot of regret there. Folks were questioning the process. Then you throw Kamala in there, and you expect this woman to, after they hit her for 3 years, to come out and run a 6-month campaign.
Right.
So I think there's a lot of distrust. There's a lot of healing that needs, a lot of venting, and there's a lot of things we just have to put on the table and actually talk about.
How do we do it faster?
I want to let before we go back. Does anybody want to respond to that? Yes.
Well, one of the things that you're talking about getting younger people involved, not only for future candidates, but just to get them to vote, to get them registered to vote. And Susan, I don't want to put you on the spot, but since you're here, I will. Again, another thing that was so impressive about Saturday was how many young folks there were. I mean, I was just blown away by it. And a very diverse crowd, and young women with their boyfriends. I mean, it was a very diverse crowd, which a lot of times you don't see young men at these things, but there were young men there. I was stuck in a corner, safely. But was there a table there for people to register? If not, could we start getting people there where you've got these young folks who probably aren't voting?
Could be doing that, and it's something that I didn't think about. And where would you have it? At the Lewis Park or at the?
Put it next to where we're stapling posters.
Yes.
But
Yes, and.
we have
Yeah.
lines standing waiting for posters. Put a table there. Get them to register.
In San Francisco. I mean, there are people that are not registered to vote, but they're hard to find.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a lot of folks who need like address changes
Yes.
and updating their registration. Toya, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I've been frustrated with my party since 2000 when I graduated high school, so it goes deep. But with this, there needs to be new blood. And the problem is, I think people, especially young people, a lot of people have never taken a civics course. A lot of people don't know the different branches. And I'm not even just talking about young people. I know a lot of 60, 70-year-olds who don't know the branches of government. And even with register to vote, it is very important to have even that quick civics, like 5-minute, 10-minute, or even if we could offer just a civics course, something, because it is so important. And it's so sad to hear older people, my mom's age, not my mom, she's smart, but people in her generation that doesn't even know the fact that there's a judicial system. And by the way, how important your state and local elections are. We're so used to getting up every 4 years or midterms, whereas, your judges are very, very important. Your district's attorney, your dog catcher. I mean, just even at that. And there's just so much education that a lot of people, I don't care if you have a degree, a master's, or you just have a GED. A lot of people don't know the basics. And so that is why, and I think even with our party, we're failing. Messaging, we suck at it. We've sucked,
I
okay?
do want to add something
Sure.
positive, because I know I was negative a little while ago, which is not usually like me. but something I heard this afternoon that made me feel good. One thing I have been doing, because we want to stop the budget bill, the big bad bill, from getting through the Senate or Congress, because it's going to hurt funding for Medi-Cal, for Medicare, and for Social Security. They're on the chopping block. So what we have been doing, we've been phone banking a couple of times a week. People don't know about this, but the last few weeks, we've been calling voters in, I think it's Minnesota, not Minnesota, Ohio? No, Josh Hawley,
Oh, that's Missouri.
In Missouri,
That's my home state.
and in Alaska. We've been calling voters for Republican senators because the bill has gone to the Senate. And we use a system where we can patch them directly through to the senator's office. So we ask if they're aware of the bill, if they believe that the Senate should not cut funding to Medi-Cal, we call it Medi-Cal. If they agree, it's okay, I can patch you directly through to Senator Hawley's office and you can leave voicemail now. Because the only thing that will move him is hearing from his voters, not from us. And a friend texted me today and said, Hawley must be running for re-election next year, which he is. Suddenly he wants to save Medicaid and now wants to raise the minimum wage to $15. And that's the phone calls he's getting, the voicemail. And we are doing part of that from here. So we can do things like that.
You're helping my home state. Thank
I
you.
want to just take it back to the panelists to give us just some final thoughts. And just sort of two questions here. What keeps you hopeful about all of this? And then who do you like for president on the Democratic ticket? You need a minute? If you need a minute.
There's a few things I'll just kind of like end on, I guess. One, this is like an unusual room for like when we're talking about voters, because obviously you're more engaged than anyone usually, because most people don't come to these kinds of events. So I would say, like, if you are wanting to, and I'm sure I'm just telling you already something you know, but like it's having conversations with your friends and family that might not be voters. I mean, that's the most effective strategy to actually get out the vote, is to talk to people who already trust you and find the issue that they actually care about most and really speak to them about why the Democratic Party would be able to solve that. Now, that's a difficult discussion to have because obviously Democrats haven't really necessarily proven to be effective legislators on a variety of issues. It doesn't mean they haven't done anything. I think it's very clear that like the Democratic Party has, I don't know, 10 times the level of like things it tries to address compared to Republicans. The Republican message is usually something you can count on less than two hands. Whereas the Democratic coalition and the issues that matter to Democrats are far more diverse, far more complex. They require explanation beyond a single 5-word phrase. And so that is why Democrats are struggling, is because it's really difficult to explain the message when you have so many things and you have to get into the weeds on them. But conversations like this and with people that you love and trust can be probably the most effective tool. I think, you know, when you talk about getting the party younger, getting younger people inspired to run for office, which you mentioned, it requires the Democratic Party to take down barriers, because right now there is a very much it's not your turn kind of culture within the Democratic Party. And so like finding ways to stop telling people why they can't run and finding ways to actually give them agency and encourage them to get in part of the process and let them know it doesn't mean you have to be an intern for 5 years to then be able to like go on to being a junior staffer to then run 10 years after that for Board of Education and then supervisor and then state legislature. Unfortunately, we've seen how certain people who kind of take that traditional ladder get there, and by the time they get there, they're just part of the system, and they're just, you know, collecting campaign checks to make sure that they have another 2 to 6 years in office. However, There is someone in this room who probably could run for office in District 10. And
I knew it was going to get there.
And I think, the best thing is that all of you are very smart about the way that politics and government works in this city. And you have the ability to actually get on someone's ass and get them motivated to work on your behalf. I have not heard a lot of things recently about the District 10 supervisor and what he's doing, but I guarantee if you talk to your friends and family who live in District 10 and combined, you all gave a call over to his office, you probably get him off his ass and away from the comedy stand-up stage.
So president.
So anyway, my diatribe over. Thanks for having me. Please read the San Francisco Standard. Please reach out to me and tell me where you think we could do better. I respond to pretty much every email I get, unless it's like of the most hateful degree. And yeah, we're doing our best. I think that's the thing to acknowledge, is that most people are trying to do their best, but it's okay to point out blind spots.
Who do you like for president?
Who do I like for president? Well, I think Kamala Harris is going to run for governor. I think that is probably the smartest choice for her, because I don't think she would have a chance to win if she were to run for president again. More than likely, it's going to be someone like Josh Shapiro or Pritzker. Newsom has literally no chance. If Newsom didn't represent California, though, I think he actually would win. I think that's like the thing that's like so aggravating about him, and there are many aggravating things about Newsom. But like he speaks the language that is effective. He can articulate the message that Democrats need to be doing, because he's smart. He can have good recall. He's witty. He's a good-looking guy. And like, I think that you need someone who can actually be an attack dog and also knows the issues front to back. So
and come off as sane as the attack dog.
Yeah, well, like it just honestly, just someone who seems like capable. Someone who just is steady and can really connect with people on a basic level and is able to articulate the core messages, which Democrats need to pare down the messaging. I was at the Democratic convention in Anaheim a few weeks ago, and I walked away deeply disturbed with the messaging, considering that the only person who even came close to having a message for the future was Tim Walz, and he just lost an election. So like, if California can't, Newsom didn't show up, Harris didn't show up, there was nobody there really talking to the room and really just talking about the issues that matter to us, which is, are we able to pay our bills, put food on the table, feel safe, and provide for the people we love? And if you can just really distill it down to that while still letting people know we're going to look after you without getting too distracted. I mean, this is the problem that Democrats will continue to face, is that Republicans can disagree viciously all the time and still vote for each other. Like, Democrats still are scared of having those fights, and they also just like will take this like weird kind of like moral stand of like, oh, I'm gonna sit it out because you didn't talk to me about this one issue.
Right.
And it's like, until Democrats can get over that shit and just support each other, they're not going to beat Republicans. But also, pendulum swings. Midterms probably good.
No, I will point out that after the 2012 election, the Republican Party was in disarray, and they were authoring all these white papers about how they could change the party and become more inclusive and win elections again. And they did absolutely none of that. We're in our current role that we're in today. And so this planning thing, there's a little bit of luck and a little bit of timing involved in this. But what makes me hopeful, and it kind of gets to what Sarah's question was, is that I've seen in the city a lot of people getting more involved in ways that they weren't involved before. When I first started to get involved in the neighborhood, and I was like in my early 30s, and it wasn't that long ago. And I was by far the youngest person in the room in all of these meetings. And that's a little intimidating. But now, particularly like in Dogpatch in Petro Hill, People who are young are getting involved more and getting involved in like safe street matters and park matters and things of local governance. And local governance is a really great teacher of politics, not the, sort of like I am a member of the Democratic Party, sort of politics, but the politics of talking and working in government and trying to get things done. And so we got people that are learning how to get things done at the city level. And when we figure out how to clear out the blockages that have kept people of, younger than the age of 75 from getting elected, then, they'll be ready to come in and step in, and they'll have a little bit of experience of actually getting things done. And that makes me feel really, really optimistic. In terms of who should be at the top of the ticket, or who I'm hoping to be at the top of the ticket, it always seems to come down to a Midwestern governor of some sort, right? I think that competence is important. I think that part of the reason why we won in 2020 was because it was a competence election. And Joe Biden was someone who had been involved in government for a very long time. He had been a successful vice president, and he portrayed competence when the world was going down in flames in the later stages of COVID during that time, right? I mean, it was terrible. I think we're going to be in a very similar state where things are going to be bad and things are not going to be running well, and we're going to be looking towards competence. And governors, two-term governors, have a history of convincing people that they're competent. And if you can do it in the Midwest, then you've been able to do it in a diverse state. So I look to Gretchen Whitmer. You mentioned Pritzker. You mentioned Tim Walz having the statement, the only positive view of change at the California Democratic Party. That's the reason why. He's a Midwestern governor. You have to have that in order to be successful. And I think that's where we're going to be looking.
What I want is a primary. All of the people that you have mentioned, I could go with any of them. I just want a primary. I want that process so I can hear what people have to say, see how people respond to them. That's what I want. Any of the names you guys have said, fine with me. In terms of what gives me hope, I spend a lot of my time around artists, and a lot of the artists I know are working on political things. And I have been struck over and over again recently by something that Toni Morrison said, who's one of my favorite writers, which if you don't mind, she sums it up much better than I do. I know the world is bruised and bleeding, and though it is important not to ignore its pain, it is critical to refuse to succumb to its malevolence. Like failure, chaos contains information that can lead to knowledge, even wisdom, like art. And, I think when we talk to each other, the chaos slows down. So whether it's 100,000 people at a march out being friendly and smiling at each other, or us sitting here and talking, I think it makes a difference, and that's what gives me hope.
Well, what gives me hope is getting up every day, getting off to a fresh start, and each day is a new day and a new beginning. And when I look at individuals, I know that innately all of us have great qualities. And what I know about those qualities is that we have to use the best ones we have and work together individually to make a collective. That much I do know. In order to come out of this, what we're in now here in San Francisco and in this country, it's going to take us working together. When I look at on Saturday mornings at the churches in Bayview, when you have the Asian community, people standing in line, 30 and 40 people, those are potential voters that people overlook. Asian community wants safety. Now, somebody else may want something totally different, but the key thing they want is safety. Then I look at the young people. You have the young kids that go to school that nobody talks to them. Nobody sits down and hear what they have to say. That's what gives me hope, and embracing them and being able, what the sister was talking about earlier, about teaching them, because we don't teach them anything. And what we have done in this country is given up our power to them, where they can basically do whatever they want to do. And anytime you gave the power to a kid to call 911 on their parents who's taking care of them, some kind of like, I get it, but I don't get it. And then you come and tell me I got to take care of this person. That's a whole nother story. But I have hope every day, because I know, again, as people and as a group of people, that we can do this. And what gives it to me is when I go out and serve people, do things for the party, do things for each other. That's what really brings you that inspiration and spirit. And I know it's times that I may not see the person do better or grow, but I know somewhere that they are doing better. And that's the great part of being able to pass that on. Now, as far as for the person that's, I mean, of course, for me, Michelle Obama should have been president a long time. that was the best president that has ever been, that never has been. But the person, we don't know yet. That person is sitting somewhere. And they're like, what you were talking about, see, the problem with politics is, and you kind of spoke on it, people want to become lifetime politicians. So then all you're going to do is run and ask for money. Run and ask for money and please appease voters just to get their votes. But when somebody comes along that just want to do it because this is what the people need to do what they have to do and go on away to the wayside. That's the kind of person that I'm looking for to be able to run for president. And then I got to get you on this one, on the standard. So I said it was quiet. Now you said about the money that was being taken, that you say the parks. Yeah. Now, do that have a face?
It's Mark Farrell.
Huh? But I'm just for instance, I'm not saying it is, but say it's Mark Farrell. You don't see his face blast on over the paper. But when we had for the black people, y'all made sure that it was a face, black faces, so it always made black people look like, or they're crooks and they're corrupt. It didn't just address just the issue of what happened or on the nonprofits that was doing it. It put a face on it. And that's the only thing, what I'm saying is with the papers, how they do people of color, they will always put a face up. But when it's other people that doing it and stealing money or taking money, misappropriating money, it's never a face. And it's kind of like we talk about it and then it gets swept away. And what the effect that has is it makes it hard on any person trying to do anything. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not putting that on you, but I'm just saying, because you're not the only paper that does that. But most people, I mean, most papers do that. But I just want, and that's something else that has to change, because it sends, that messaging is more hurtful and harmful than words sometimes. So that's something.
Yeah. Let me just close out. I know we're almost at time, but want to thank the panelists. Yes. This was talking about things that keep us hopeful. All of you keep me hopeful. This was an intentional group of people that I wanted to pull together, starting with the panelists as sort of the core. We've got obviously artists in the room, attorneys in the room, the news reporters in the room, small businesses in the room, residents in the room, activists, community organizers. This to me is how we change the landscape in this district, how we change the landscape in San Francisco, and how we change the landscape across the country. Like, people are watching us right now, whether we know it or not. And it's our moment to step up. It's our moment to have discussions like this. It's our moment to get involved in politics. It's our moment to put it all out on the table. And then it's about how we respond. So we can sleep on this for a little bit, but when we wake up tomorrow, there's things that we can be doing to change these dynamics, because the world is watching us right now. So I appreciate you all. I thank you all for being here. I thank our partners and supporters, Democratic Party, Eastern Neighborhood Democratic Party, and this beautiful space here at the Hub. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah.